For those that don't know, I think pretty much everybody does. My name is Joe. I'm the President and CEO of the Glendora Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to welcome you here today for a presentation about a new opportunity the Chamber is hoping to offer our members. As an added benefit to our member partners, this program that you'll soon learn about is designed to help you save money, time, and headache regarding your retirement plans for you and your employees. Just a quick note, I am recording this presentation to share with you afterwards and with other businesses looking into this program, as I know there are other people who just couldn't make it at this time. But I wanted to make sure to be able to get this presentation to be able to share with them. Before we start, I would like to thank some people here, Tara and Nick Brown of Millennium Pension Services, Inc., for bringing this opportunity to my attention. You'll hear from them soon. And then also Ross Lopez of RL Insurance and Financial Services, and the rest of the team that you'll soon hear from regarding this program that we're excited to offer to you. So thank you, everybody that have taken part in this presentation for bringing this to us. I mean, I think it's going to be a great tool, be able to save businesses money and headache. I mean, this year we've had plenty of headache, right? So I mean, this is one thing maybe we can help you with. So just so you know, the chat feature is on if you want to put in any questions, anybody, or share any information. But without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Ross Lopez and to get things started. Ross, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ross Lopez, and I'm with RL Insurance and Financial Services. I've been doing 401k plans for the last 20 years. And I'm local. I've been living in Glendora for the last 11 years. I've been involved in several different T-ball and all this stuff with kids. Served several years in the investment committee for the city of Glendora. But Tara reached out to us and formed a team of professionals that deal in the retirement world. And we approached Joe for several reasons. Legislation has been changing recently that has propelled 401k to the forefront of a lot of different moving pieces. You might have received CalSavers emails or notifications or mailers or what have you. CalSavers is a state program that mandates employers to participate in a retirement plan, whether it's through them offering a private plan, and if they don't, then they need to sponsor the state's program. There is no opting out. It's you have to offer it, or you have to offer your own plan. So with that being said, we approached Joe and said, hey, Joe, look, the deadline for large employers for over 100 employees was September 30th. And next year, any employer with more than 50 employees needs to have something in place by June 30th. And then the following year, any employer with over 5 employees as of June 30th of 2022 needs to sponsor a retirement plan. There was also some changes in legislation under the Secure Act that made things a little easier for chambers of commerce like the Glendora one to be a pillar of the community and offer some additional services to its members. And we talked to Joe, and for the last couple of months, we've been working out some details and trying to get all the moving pieces in place so we can offer this program to you. So you're going to be hearing from a couple of different people today. We're going to be talking to Transamerica, who is a leader in this multiple employer plan marketplace. They've been doing it for several years now, and they're kind of leading the marketplace to be able to offer these type of services. We're also going to be talking to David Donaldson from Arista Smart, Brad Kelly from Leaf House Financial, and like Joe already said, we're going to be talking to Tara and Nick from Millennium Pensions. So without further delay, I'm going to hand this over to Sebastian, to Dan. He's with Transamerica, and he's going to be going over the program that we put together here. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. We'll have some questions and answers at the end. But make sure you can either write it on the chat or write down your questions till the end. This is Dan Rogers from Transamerica.
Thank you, Ross. I definitely appreciate this opportunity to talk to everybody. One of the things that we want to do today is make sure you've got as much information as possible. So as Joe said, we'll be recording this session, but we'll also can give you a PDF of all our slides that we'll be walking through. Myself, I'll cover kind of the first part of the presentation. Sebastian Eza is also with Transamerica. He'll be covering another portion of it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'll try to share screen here, and we'll go forward from there. So I appreciate everybody taking the time.
Dan, I think you have your calendar reminder up right now.
Okay, it should be coming up here pretty soon. Do you see the presentation?
No, we've got your calendar notification.
Ah, okay. Stop sharing for a second. How about now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. If that's the only technical difficulty today, I'll live with it. So good. Thanks everybody for joining us today. My job at Transamerica is to work with associations and chambers of commerce and talk about a particular type of retirement plan called a multiple employer plan. So what we want to do today is kind of walk through what does that really mean as a multiple employer plan? What are the benefits of joining a plan like this for members of the chamber, and how all this process works to really, as Joe said, try to make it easier, more efficient for you to have a retirement plan for your employees. We're very happy to join with the folks at Glendora Chamber, and we think this could be a great benefit for really a wide group of your members that are looking at this sort of program. We've been around for about 100 years, and Transamerica is kind of the 800-pound gorilla in this space. We have about 20% of the overall association chamber type of multiple employer plans, by far the #1 provider out there. But their plans, essentially, they're usually what we call defined contribution plans, 401k plans, profit sharing plans, where the companies have a common interest, but not necessarily a common ownership. In the past, it's always been fairly as to whether membership chamber would be enough to have that common interest to try to sponsor a plan, but the Department of Labor came out with a ruling last year, as Ross referenced, and that ruling specifically said we're encouraging chambers to look at offering this sort of plan and definitely approving the ability of a chamber to offer it out. So what happens in that case is if you're a member of the chamber, you can become a member of the plan. The chamber itself is the sponsor of the plan, and then would be the companies that join the plan as members of the chamber. You have to maintain your membership in order to stay into the plan itself. But you'll see there's going to be a lot of positive benefits to being an adopting employer into the plan. We're going to be able to offload a number of your responsibilities and fiduciary liabilities and really make this an efficient way for you to offer out a savings program for you and your employees. There's kind of 3 key advantages to a multiple employer plan. One is potential cost savings. Just kind of makes sense that if, Nick has his $500,000 plan and Sebastian has his $2 million plan and Ross has his $3 million plan, if we combine them together, we've got more buying power than we would have separately. And what we've found is typically these plans can provide a 20, 25, sometimes even more % savings over trying to go out individually on your own and trying to find your own plan at its own price. Also, two other features that I think are just as key, though, is saving time. We've all had just a crazy business environment since March of this year. And a retirement plan does take day-to-day time away from running your business in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, the person that was running the plan had, 10 different jobs before all this hit, now 20 different jobs. Maybe that person isn't even there anymore in the business. So companies are really looking for a way, how can we outsource to professionals that day-to-day plan administration? And we'll talk about kind of the pieces we have in place to help outsource that day-to-day administration so that you can focus on your business. And finally, fiduciary support. Those of you that currently have a retirement plan in place, you're probably the main fiduciary for that plan. You're not only the administrative fiduciary, in a lot of cases, you're the investment fiduciary, and that leads to a lot of responsibility. What we'll be able to do essentially is to add that fiduciary support layer so that there's an administrative fiduciary looking over the admin portion of the plan and an investment fiduciary looking over that portion of the plan. So you can take those out of your bucket doing on a day-to-day basis and can really keep the plan safe and secure. The advantages to you, well, kind of what we walked through. Volume pricing. You'll be able to get a better deal by combining together. But you can also continue to have plan design flexibility. At Transamerica, the chassis that we built for this essentially allows for you to determine what your eligibility and entry dates are for your plan, what your contributions to employees are going to be. Do you want to have a matching contribution, a profit share contribution? You can help design your own plan. And with the efforts of Millennium, with Nick and Tara, you can make sure that you've got the plan design that's right for your company and make sure that it's right for your business. And moving forward, the ability to change that if you need to. I'm not going to hit everything here, but one of the key things is a single 5500 filing. If you're doing a retirement plan now, essentially you're filing what's called a 5500. Think of it as the 1040 form for a business retirement plan. And every time you file that form, you wind up with people prospecting off of it and giving you a call and saying, hey, I looked at your information online on the plan because it is public data. In this case, there's only one 5500 for the entire plan. So it's very efficient, and that 5500 is not signed by you as the adopting employer. It'll be signed by one of our administrative fiduciaries. So again, you're taking that off of your plate. Larger companies with over 100 employees often have to have an annual audit done every year in their plan, okay? That audit can run anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 on an average annual basis. In this case, there's one single audit for the entire plan. So those companies that are larger companies can be able to come in and avoid writing that check on an annual basis. And their scale and assets moving in allow us to offer this plan not only to larger companies, but to companies that don't have a plan or smaller companies. So it's really a win-win for everybody that's out there. If you don't have a plan, obviously there's potential tax advantages rather than being kind of pigeonholed into the state-run mandated plan. Let's talk about some of the things that we can do to make sure that your tax advantages get maximized. And again, that's where Nick and Tara are really at their best. This is a very busy slide. I do admit it's a busy slide. But what it does is shows how many professionals you would have working on your plan. And what's amazing is we can get this group together, a very powerful group, and still save you money, probably over where you are right now. So when you look at these sort of plans, there's a primary sponsor, okay, which is the Chamber of Commerce itself. And then there's adopting employers that come into the plan, okay? Very limited fiduciary liability on their part. And then from the advisor side, you've met Ross. Ross, is local. He'll be able to partner with all of us for education, to talk to businesses and working with new adopting employers coming in. Ross is an expert in this retirement plan field. He knows the community. He knows the area. Ross, do you want to say our side? I had a little bit of a talk at the front, but we're very excited to be partnering with you on this particular area. I think Ross is still on mute.
Thank you.
There you go.
I'm what's called a charter retirement plan specialist, which I have that designation, which means that I really focus on this marketplace. And this is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I've run plans as an advisor, as an administrator, and as a provider like Transamerica. I've really seen all different aspects of retirement plans. So you have somebody that really understands what it takes to make a plan work. And I can sit down with plan sponsors and identify areas where we can improve their systems to make sure that the plan runs smoothly. You got somebody that's been around quite a bit. I've done this for 20 years.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ross. Greatly appreciate that. Also, from a TPA side, we've talked about Millennium, Nick, and Tara. I'd like to just turn it over to them for a minute to talk about their services. They're really the boots on the ground that can help you make sure you've got the best plan design for your individual company. So, Nick or Tara, would you like to talk for a moment?
Sure, thank you. You probably know Nick more than you know me, but anyway, Nick Brown, he's a spokesperson and he's out there with the plan. And our model, I was trying to pull up my screen, but basically, nice to meet every one of you. And thank you, Joe, for this opportunity as well. We are the person who we are the firm who will be responsible for your plan design and documents and all aspects of the IRS compliance. Our model is collaborating with professionals for retirement success. And over the years, there have been changes, or as Ross and Dan explained, that there have been significant changes in the law regarding retirement plans, especially with the Cal Savers, where anyone with over 100 employees needed to have a retirement plan in place or join the Cal Savers. Next year is going to be between above 50 to 99, and in 2022, 5 and over. So this closed map or this opportunity is sort of in response to that huge obligation for the Cal Savers program. At the same time, we are local, and we also have several closed maps for chambers that we currently administer. And that's it for us. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tara. Yeah, we greatly enjoy working with Tara and Nick, and very happy to partner with them on this. We also have what's called a 316 Plan Administrator Fiduciary. And this is important because they really act as kind of the surrogate plan sponsor. They're the ones that will be signing that 5500 form and really kind of a watchdog to make sure that everything is working well within the plan itself. ERISA Smart, a group with David Donaldson, would be the 316 Plan Administrative Fiduciary. David's a former Department of Labor auditor, so he knows where anybody would look under the rocks to find anything that's not going well within a plan. He's got just a ton of experience at this. David, I don't know if you're on the line or not. If you are, if you'd like to just pipe in and just say hello, that'd be fantastic.
I am. Thanks, Dan. So my company, I don't know if I'm getting, my company, we manage currently roughly about 12 billion in retirement plans, where we provide oversight and fiduciary services to. Our job is to step into the employer's shoe and handle a lot of the day-to-day operations of the plan, so you can focus on building your business and not having to worry whether you're making mistakes when it comes to your plans. Statistically, the Department of Labor finds about 70% of the plans it investigates out of compliance and in violation of ERISA. The reason that is because in 1974, 40 some odd years ago, somebody had the bright idea of making you, the employer that knew the least about ERISA, the most responsible, right? And the reason I left the Department of Labor is to change that, right? To have a different narrative where we're able to step in, provide that overall plan management, operational expertise. My team is vetted with some of the best people in the industry. I have several DOL investigators that work for me, fraud experts, cybersecurity coders. I have a former LA County sheriff that works for me that does searches for employees, and just a variety of people that we have working for us. But we are, in terms of an overall ERISA risk management company, the largest company in the United States that deals with that.
Perfect. Thank you, David, very much. Yeah, it can't be underestimated the importance of having this sort of plan administrative fiduciary in a professional capacity. And it's something that's really not available for most plans of any sort of smaller size. And just basically think if you're running a plan right now and you're signing the 5,500, you're the 316 plan administrative fiduciary. Wouldn't it be great to offload that? And what they will do is basically take over the authority regarding investment selection and monitoring. Brad, I don't know if you're available and under mute, but if you want to talk about your group and your services, this is another key fiduciary function that we can take off the plate of the employers.
Yes, absolutely. To kind of give you a little bit of background on the 338 and the role it plays in the retirement plan, it's actually very similar to the purpose and the objective of hiring a 316. The only difference is where instead of where a 316 focuses more on the administrative aspects of running the retirement plan, the 338, they focus on the investment decisions that are made. So that includes putting together an investment lineup, monitoring it on an ongoing basis, and then making any changes along the way that are necessary if perhaps a fund is no longer passing our screens. But the whole point of it is to, again, be able to take the liability and the responsibility of overseeing the lineup off of the plan sponsor's plate, put it on Leaf House's plate. So then again, it's one less thing you have to worry about. And then that way you're able to kind of leverage the technology that we've built to screen funds and also not have to worry about the fiduciary liability that's associated with the investment lineup on an ongoing basis.
Perfect. We worked with Brad's group for years. They do a fantastic job, and we really think we're covering all the bases for your plan. Transamerica, we're what's called the record keeper at the end of the day. It's our website, for example, that the employees would go to look at. The employers can go to the website and just see their own employer information onto it. We're really kind of the face of the program, working hand in hand with Ross and his group for education meetings, things of that nature. We kind of help try to tie all these parties together and give them the information they need to do their job professionally. One moment I just want to take on the fiduciary responsibility side. It's very important to look at this fiduciary responsibility in a serious context. Ross mentioned the Secure Act, the tax law that passed at the end of last year. One of the things that kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes is in that Secure Act, the Department of Labor essentially multiplied by 10 the maximum fine amounts for a number of plan administrative responsibilities if not done correctly. Fines that were a maximum of $15,000 before were now $150,000. Those over $5,000 are now $50,000. So to have this administrative outsourcing of fiduciary liability is key. We'll have that 316 administrative function ability, and there's two types of investment fiduciary, 321, where they kind of give you a rating, but they don't actually take action. We've chose to use 338, where they actually can take action and remove funds and put new funds in place to really give you the maximum protection from a fiduciary side. When we talk about things like offloading administrative work, what are we talking about? Well, we work hand in hand with everybody here to make sure things like tracking enrollment. If an employee is eligible, do they get the information they're supposed to get? We'll work on the processing of loans, distributions, quadros, things of that nature. So as an employer, you don't have to deal with those. We'll deal with them for you. Things like payroll integration. We have a number of companies that over 80 that we have payroll integration. So we can take that primarily off of your plate. All these things that are kind of the day-to-day things that nobody really gives an employer any training for, we can offload that administrative work and make sure it's done professionally for you. I'm going to turn it over to Sebastian for a minute to talk a little bit about Transamerica and kind of some of the neat things that your employees will be able to see into the future, and then we'll circle back with everybody at the end.
Awesome. Dan, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Well, everyone, my name is Sebastian Naza. I am the regional vice president for the respective territory. I'm the local guy. I'm the boots on the ground. So Dan touched on a little bit of the why Transamerica and in kind of who we are in this marketplace as it relates to multiple employer plans. We've been doing this for over 80 years. We've been in business for over 100 years. So we're hitting on all cylinders, right? 338 investment fiduciary coverage, 316 administrative relief and protection, plan design flexibility, cost savings, 15500. The list goes on, everything that Dan just mentioned. But what does the look and feel, right? What does that look and feel from a participant standpoint? So we don't have enough time to go through all of the bells and whistles. I tend to call this the Tesla of retirement plans because it's packed with technology. So I'm just going to hit on a couple of those features just to showcase what I'm talking about. So obviously participants would have a full access to the website itself, right? Their own actual account. And we've won Dalbar Awards, CFO Magazine Awards for our website. I personally have never received a request that we can't accommodate to on the website, whether it's going down to unit values or changing investments, contributions, the list goes on. In fact, if any of you folks have Spanish employees, our website is fully translated into Spanish. We have a radio button at the top that they click and the whole website turns into Spanish. So it's a very comprehensive, yet very easy to use participant experience. And I'm going to showcase just one of the features. If we can go to the next slide, Dan. So we have a feature called On Track, and it does just that. It keeps you on track with your retirement. The way it does so is when you log in, you're not just going to see where you are at retirement. It's going to actually show you, or not, it's not just going to show you where you are now, it's going to show you where you're going to be at retirement. But it also lets you model alternative strategies to basically show you how to get to where you want to be. And what it's using is it's using Monte Carlo simulations. So this is the same technology that NASA uses for space launch projections. So it's taking your age, your investments, right, even down to your gender. It's taking all of these data points and it'll run different models to show you that impact and show you where you're going to be, but again, help you get to where you want to be. This is just one feature, folks, and all of this is also available on the mobile app. So we have a full transactional mobile app that isn't just about your retirement. It actually acts like a life coach as well. Like I said, we've been doing this for over 80 years, and we stopped singing the save for retirement about 6 years ago. It's also save for retirement, but take into consideration your health as well. And I think everyone on this call will agree that it's more relevant, right? It's relevant now more than ever, that wealth and health are inextricably linked. So that mobile app also acts like a life coach. Another feature, and of course, what's a retirement plan without investments? As Brad mentioned, full 338 coverage, your plan would have obviously a solid concrete list of investments. And I think most folks should be familiar with the target date fund, which would be available, but this plan, this program, the solution that the Chamber is going to be offering also has what's called managed advice. I call it the target date 2.0 is what I call it. So a target date fund is usually just a time horizon. Managed advice is going to build a complete custom allocation for a participant using a very comprehensive list of items, so data points, right? And you can see a couple of those on the slide. This is just another resource for participants, folks. And in addition to the actual feature and managed advice actually building custom models, they would have access to one-to-one support if they need it. This is a full interaction from a licensed professional to deal specifically with a retirement account. So we don't really have enough time to kind of dig into the details. We'd love to follow up with a demo, but top to bottom, like I say, it's the Tesla of retirement plans. And with that said, I will shut up and pass it back over to Dan.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Dan or Ross, yeah.
Yeah, I can take it briefly, then I'll pass it back to Ross. Again, from Transamerica and all our partners, we really appreciate everybody taking the time today. We'll pass it over to Ross. And what we'd ideally like is that if you have an existing retirement plan out there, let us do a comparison of your current plan to what we're offering, not just cost, but investments, but it's administrative responsibilities, fiduciary liability. Let's take a look and see if this would be a good fit for you and your business. It doesn't mean you're making any sort of commitment to us. We just love to be able to do a comparison to show you how this may benefit not only the chamber, but you as a member of the chamber. So with that, I'll pass it over back to Ross.
Thank you, Dan. The retirement world is going to keep on getting more complex. Laws are going to continue to change. I think we put together a team of professionals that can help you navigate the ever-changing environment. We got cost savings, we have investment help, we have education for participants. I think this plan has it all. We would like to take a look at what you're currently paying, and what your cost savings could be, but like everybody said, give you all the additional services that are available out there. You can email me at ross, R-O-S-S, at RLIFS, or you can call me at 626-387-9505, and we can talk a little bit about your plan, what you guys want to accomplish with the retirement plan, and maybe find out whether the design is working for you. If there's any issues that you might want us to help you resolve, we'll do a comparison and benchmark all these features and fees, and hopefully we can save you some money. Our goal is to make sure that we can get enough interest from several of the members to be able to sponsor this plan. So I encourage you to reach out to me, and we'll keep you guys informed with more information as this thing develops. But the first step would be for you guys to reach out to me, and we can get some dialogue going. Any questions?
Yes, Ross, this is RF Taj from Sport Clips. I currently have a plan. Basically, when I started my business, I took my 401k that I had and put it into my corporation to start my business. And I've been doing the 5500 form with a different company for the past 12 years. Can that be transferred over to this new plan if we go through the chamber?
The answer, if it's not in an IRA, if it's a 401k designation, and it sounds like you're filing 5500, so it sounds like it is, then I don't see a reason why we couldn't do that. So the answer is yes, we can do that. We like to take a look to see what's happening with your plan and being able to identify cost savings, but most definitely we can do that. And we can also identify where we can add some additional layers of protection.
Okay, and then do you have to be at, I know that every year the number of employees changes, like this year it's 100 and more, next year it's 50 or more, and then the following year is 5 or more. But do you have to wait? Because I have about 56 employees, so I guess I don't have to do it this year, but next year, but you could do it right now if you wanted to, correct?
Well, there's a couple of different things that are going on. So I think you're alluding to CalSavers. CalSavers is a state mandate saying that for those that don't sponsor a plan, need to start sponsoring a plan by these deadlines. You already sponsor a plan, so you're not subject to the deadline. Now you can do whatever you want to do with your plan since you're individually administrating that plan. If you wanted to take a look at that today, that doesn't affect anything that's going on with legislation or anything of the sort or with your plan. You as a fiduciary have the discretion of doing what's right for your plan. And one of these things could be changing vendors. So we encourage you to take a look at that by sending me that information, and we can start looking to see what's happening with your plan. And if there's cost savings as a fiduciary, you want to make sure that you implement those cost savings.
Okay, so maybe Joe can at the end send out all of your contact information so we can do that.
Sure, that's a great idea.
Hey, look, this is David. Let me speak to this. So the benefit of moving into this kind of format is is the simplicity that it's going to develop. And you talk about having to do your 5,500, that will transfer over to my firm. So we'll be responsible, legally responsible under DOL regulations for ensuring that not only is it filed on time, that the information is absolutely correct in that data. So you're able to outsource that to a team of experts, right? And so I can see by your background, you are not an ERISA company. So we are, and that's what we're going to do for it. And so it's a lot easier. And somebody mentioned that it's nice when you don't get cold calls for people trying to prospect your plan. You're able to screen that a little bit better. But the most important thing is when you sign that 5,500, you sign it under perjury of penalty. And that's a pretty serious thing when it really comes down to it, because the DOL is in the enforcement business. They are not in the compliance business. So most importantly, that risk that you're taking by having a 401k is going to be substantially limited by this type of structure. Your really only responsibility is just to get the money to the 401k on time. That's it. Everything else is pretty much handled from behind the scenes for you, and you've been able to transfer that fiduciary risk in the meantime.
Gentlemen, my name is Marilyn Sparks. I have a couple of questions. What is the cost to the chamber?
So,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
so the chamber has doesn't really have a cost per se. There's going to be costs associated with running a plan that's going to be borne by the plan sponsors. Like right now, you guys are paying stuff to either a record keeper. You guys are paying fees on your investments. You guys are probably paying a TPA some fees if you have that. So that some of that stuff is going to translate over to the chamber plan. The chamber itself
We don't have those. We don't have those costs now.
for the
What
chamber.
Let's if I can jump in real quick. Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is no such thing. Every plan has costs, right? They have cost to administer plans. They have investments cost.
But we currently don't have.
And all you're going to be
now.
doing is.
Oh, the chamber would not have any cost.
No. Right. It transfers to the participants. The participants are responsible for paying the cost of the plan, right?
Okay.
And the responsibility of the fiduciaries of the plan is to make sure that those fees are reasonable, right? And if you look at a lot of the litigation that's happening right now, that litigation is predominantly based on fiduciaries letting fees get out of control. My time at the Department of Labor doing enforcement action is something that we looked at. So even though majority of I would say 99% of all plans in the marketplace, the fees are paid by the employees, it is a fiduciary liability and responsibility to ensure that the fees that are paid are reasonable for the services that are provided, right? So for example, if you look at some of these lawsuits and you're like, how come these employers are paying, $1,000 a year in fees? Like, how are they supposed to save money, right? And so it always reverts back to, are fees reasonable? And part of the exercises that we go through as fiduciaries of the plan is to evaluate on an ongoing basis, right? Because as the plans grow, right, the cost savings shrinks. So or grows as well. So if this plan went from 10 million to 50 million, we would be able to negotiate better pricing across the board of all vendors, therefore lending to the participants' ability to grow their assets, right? And so it's an ongoing responsibility to be prudent in terms of managing these fees. But the costs are predominantly borne by the plan sponsors.
Okay.
I'm sorry, plan participants.
So the participant's fee, is that a percentage of their fund or account? Is that a flat fee? Is it based on performance?
So that's a great question. So there is
Well,
going to be,
I'll let you talk to that. There's no, it's illegal to have performance-based fees. That's more something you see in like private equity deals, things like that.
part of the process that I'm going to be doing is doing a benchmarking of what participants, employers are being billed today and what could be by going into the plan. Historically, it's been anywhere 25% plus of savings. So there will be a fee per participant for record keeping, not for record keeping, for administration. I believe that's I'll get back to you with the exact number.
Okay, so we don't know yet.
No, we do know. I just don't have that. I wasn't prepared for that
Okay.
question right this second.
Yeah, this call was meant to be more about actually the entire program itself. When it comes down to the cost, and like David was talking about, it's really contingent on the size of the plan. So when you're asking about a specific participant, it's really relative to the whole company, right? The whole sponsor of the actual plan itself. And so that's why it's easier just to talk offline individually on your specific company with how many employees, you know, how many would be participating,
No,
et cetera.
I'm not asking for me specifically. I'm asking for our members. What can they expect?
Gotcha. Yeah. And it goes back to what Dan was talking about. On average, with multiple employer plans, because of it's basically strength in numbers, you're looking at typically a 20% savings, but it's tough to quantify that because you're also adding 316, 338. I have to believe, and this is not the first chamber plan we've done. Typically, most folks on this plan do not have 316 or 338. That's usually what we find. So you're adding all these layers at a 20% savings. That's typically what happens.
Thank you. And then my last question is, since you brought it up, Sebastian, which chambers are you currently working with?
Yeah, the latest was Pasadena. So Pasadena Chamber of Commerce is one that we've fully launched. They're revamping their entire website as I actually speak. That would be the latest. I know actually I'm headed to Bakersfield here in the next hour. That's another one. So there's plenty, there's no shortage. And I think actually Tara can speak to that highly because she has been on the forefront of contacting and working with a lot of chambers in Southern California. I also know Long Beach is in the works, Cerritos is in the works.
But not in the works. Who can we call that you're working with now?
Yep, Pasadena, I would say, right now. And it's interesting. Yeah, sure. All great questions, by the way.
Thank you, Marilyn. One of the things that we do have to keep in mind that we're trying to launch this plan, so we're at the beginning stages. The more members that we have in here, the more purchasing power we have. So we can't say a definitive answer that it is this, because if we get $50 million worth of retirement assets, that fee is going to go down. But if we only get $5 million, that fee is going to be a little higher. So I would love to be able to quote you an exact number, but it depends, and it's a moving number, right? Because the assets grow, they shrink. But typically when we group something together, it's like buying stuff at Costco, right? You're going to get it cheaper than going to the store.
Right. No, I understand. Just as a board member, I want to be able to speak with confidence on what we're proposing to them. I take it personally that if I'm telling our members this is what we should do, it's because I believe in it.
Sure, no, I totally appreciate
it. And I grocery shop with them or socialize with them, and I don't, want to be responsible for steering them the wrong way.
No, I appreciate that 100%. And the more questions, the more it gives
just to follow up on what Marilyn was talking about, because these are all the things. I'm also on the board for the Glendora Chamber. And also a couple other chambers too. So I want to be able to talk to them about it too. So the question I have, a follow-up on that is, I get it that you are just starting with the chambers as a basis for the combined or multiple employer plan. But you, I think it was, who was it that but I think maybe it was earlier that somebody said that this has been in the multiple employer program has been there for a long time.
Yep.
So what are the other kinds of multiple employer programs you have and how big they are and what kind of fees they are getting?
Yeah, I can help answer that. This is Dan.
Yeah,
So we've been doing multiple employer plans themselves at Transamerica for over 20 years now. We have about $35 billion in assets overall amongst all the different plans. And it really ranges from a few different types. There's a lot of associations that have their plans with us. Again, we have about 20% of that association multiple employer plan market. It's also groups called
associations. What does that mean?
Contractors associations, for example. Typically what they are business associations. They're not built just to have the retirement plan. What they're basically doing is we've got like 13 different association or general contractors associations that we have their multiple employer plan. We have grocer associations. It was really unclear until the Department of Labor came up with a ruling whether a Chamber of Commerce could have this sort of plan. There wasn't enough, a DOL ruling as to, is that enough of a business nexus to actually sponsor a plan? So when they actually, in the ruling itself, said that they are encouraging chambers of commerce to have this sort of plan, it opened the door. Now, COVID kind of closed the door on conversations because all of that happened towards the end of last year. Like Sebastian said, I'm in talks with probably 7 or 8 different chambers right now within the California marketplace on starting up a plan. It is a process though. Because of COVID, we can't just conduct business like we used to. But we have a number of different associations that have this sort of plan. We'd be happy to give you references of those type of associations and kind of how they work with Transamerica. And obviously, if you want to contact the folks over at Pasadena and talk about how that's getting off the ground, more than happy to have you do that also. But typically what you've got are associations that are sponsoring it, business associations, like a chamber can now sponsor it. PEOs that do professional outsourcing, kind of a co-employment type of scenario, have been doing these sort of plans for 20, 25 years or so. And then you also see multiple employer plans for businesses that are partially owned, but not completely owned by one group. So think of it as Joe owns 5 different car dealerships, about 30% in each one of them. He can put them together in one plan and avoid the audit cost and all of that by forming a multiple employer plan rather than paying 5 different types of costs out there.
Okay, so one other comment or question on is, I just want to understand it so when we talk to our members, we can explain it better. So there are 2, from what I heard in the presentation, there are 3 different aspects to it that can be of benefit. One is obviously the cost part of it.
Right.
That can depend, like Ross said, it can depend on how big the participation is. But if there are multiple chambers, then the cost gets distributed over those multiple chambers, correct? Because they're all part of the group, or is it just that one chamber?
It's just the one chamber because it's tied into the specific membership component. Okay. You're a member of the Glendora Chambers.
Okay, so depending on how big that pool of money is,
yep,
cost can vary. So that could be a savings if there's a larger amount of money, but if it's not, it could be not that much of a savings or no savings at all, correct?
Depends on the size of the company, the demographics of the company, exactly.
Okay, so the second part of this is the management of the plan. So even though you may be paying the same amount, but the management of the plan is taken over and all of that headache is removed from the individual businesses. So even though if you may have a smaller participation and not that much money in it, depending on the size of the chamber or the participation, you can still get the benefit of the fiduciary side of it so that you don't have those headaches, correct?
Right, the administrative and the fiduciary are huge components. So honestly, if it was the same wash price, you'd be crazy not to at least look at it because of the fiduciary offload and the administrative offload that comes with having those outside fiduciaries. Exactly. And we've got also a couple of co-branded pieces that we kind of did that we can get over to Joe to send out to you that kind of describe the benefits from a member point of view. And that might be nice for you to just have, here's the types of things that you would get from a marketing side that would talk to those benefits that you just mentioned, but they're kind of co-branded PDFs that we can get out to you and take a look at that really kind of summarize everything into a quick, easy digestion.
That would be good, like an elevator speech kind of a thing, so that you.
Yep. Yeah, there's a one-page flyer that's great, actually, and then there's another benefits flyer that's 3 or 4 pages. And one of the things that we do at Transamerica is, if we get this up and running, we assign what we call an organic sales team person to the plan. So somebody calls Joe or you and says, hey, tell me about the plan. We really don't want you telling them about the plan. What we want you to do is go, okay, call this specific person. They'll know when to bring in Ross. They'll know when to bring in Tara. They can kind of quarterback that discussion. They can talk to them about an existing plan, setting up a new plan, and just work through the process to see if it would be a good fit for them.
Okay. And the last question I have is, what is the minimum amount that would have to be through the chamber combined that would, allow you to do this for the?
Sure. So we're looking at the minimum amount being total assets from, can be from 1 company, from 5 companies, from 15 companies of $5 million. And we honestly did an Excel of existing retirement plans in the Glendora area, members and non-members. It should be a very, very doable number within that list.
Okay. All right. Okay. Those answers are good for me, so I can at least
Right.
speak to it a little bit more.
Right. And we'll get those pieces out to you too, because I think that would help you and Marilyn kind of see what type of marketing materials would be used going forward.
Okay. And then just for curiosity, what is it? I know you're doing it with Pasadena Chamber. How long does it take to implement something like this?
It varies. I wish I had a good answer for you. Typically what happens is we get, might be 2, might be 3, 4, 5 members that say, yes, this is going to be a good fit. It takes about a month to 6 weeks to actually set up what we call the mothership, the initial sponsoring plan. And then we can start bringing in adopting employers into that. So it is usually a 2 to 3 month process. What we want to do is just kind of what we're doing today is making sure, is there enough interest out there? Can we do some comparisons for you? We can all sit around and go, this is a great idea, but if it turns out nobody really wants to participate in it, then maybe we move on to something else. But in cases like Pasadena, we say, yeah, that is a great idea. That is going to work for our members. So we're hesitant to roll it out to everybody. We want to kind of get this select group and let's talk and let's make sure that everybody is on board and convinced that, yes, this is a good thing for the chamber and its members. And then we can start kind of rolling it out to the rest of the people.
Okay. The nice thing about me being local is that I'm a chamber member. So one of the things that we're going to try to do is encourage participation by having me available for these functions where if this comes up, I'm going to be there to be able to address some of these questions. As we continue to have more events, Joe's going to continue to put the information out there. I'll be around. And so our effort is to make sure that we're around to be able to address any of these things as they come up. So I'm local. I've been here for 11 years. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to continue to bump into people at the store and talk about that or at the chamber meeting or something. So you definitely got somebody here to be able to answer those questions. And these are great questions, by the way. We encourage this.
Hey, Ross, you just prompted another question for me because I know this is something that was briefly mentioned. So if you do become, let's say this becomes part of the chamber offering and you are a member and multiple people have signed up, but if you do not renew your membership with the chamber, then obviously you're not part of that. So how does that get handled? Because if they have opted into the plan, do they now become an individual that is working with you guys? or individual company that's working and not getting the benefits of the chamber?
The answer is they cannot participate in the plan if they're not a member because they lost that connection to the
So
chamber.
what happens to their plan if they were already in there and now they're not a member? So what happens to them?
They would just wind up spinning their plan out into a single employer plan. So they would essentially leave the chassis of the multiple employer plan. They could stay with Transamerica and spin it out, or they could go to another provider at that point.
Okay, got it. Okay, because that's an important thing, because if somebody moves out of the area or has
Right.
some company or whatever, how do they handle that? Okay, all right, good.
And that's one of the reasons a lot of chambers are looking at this now, frankly, is, you know, everybody's looking at membership dues under a finer tooth comb than they used to. And having a plan like this, you know, if the company views this as a major benefit to them to be able to access this plan, they're going to keep paying their dues going forward. So it really is a very sticky thing from a membership side for the chamber. And in many cases, it works out as a win-win for everybody.
Okay.
I see Joe put my information on the chat. So if you guys want to take a look at my information there, there's my email address, cell phone, office number.
And this is Tara here. I do have a one page, which I'll email to Joe. It's my team approach to the qualified retirement plans and collaborating with professionals, retirement success, as well as asset protection. And that's all part of the retirement plan. So I'll send it off to Joe, and maybe and it shows our team as well in a one page.